The question now is that vote tertiary education stand part of the schedules.
Mr Speaker.
Honourable Cam Calder.
It is a rare pleasure to rise and address the House. Vote. Thank you. Thank you. Vote tertiary education. Vote tertiary education increased, Mr Speaker, increased to $2.881 billion in 2013. $2.881 billion in 2030 from an estimated actual spend in 2012 of $2.745 billion. Budget 2013 commits over $130 million in new funding for investment in tertiary education. We're continuing to make investing in engineering and science a priority, as these skills are crucial for growth in our economy and have been the subject of underinvestment in the past. Industry demand for skilled engineers and scientists remains high, and the budget has addressed these issues by increasing funding for tuition subsidy rates in engineering and science programs across the tertiary education system. New initiatives in this area over the next 4 years include an additional $9.3 million for engineering, 2% funding increase per equivalent full-time student, an additional $17.9 million to science, a further 2% increase, $28.7 million for private training establishment to close the remainder of the gap in student achievement funding with those of the funding with public tertiary education institutions, an additional $32.4 million to assist in meeting the Better Public Services target of increasing the proportion of 25 and 34-year-olds with a qualification of level 4 or higher to 55% by 2017, because, Mr Chairman, this government sets ourselves target and we're prepared to be held accountable for those targets which we set ourselves. And in this case, we want to see, we believe it's in the interest of our country to see an increase in the proportion of 25 and 34-year-olds with a qualification of level 4 or higher to 55%. Now, we're also aiming at a $6.3 million increase to equity funding pool to maintain the current rates per student, confirmation of youth funding rates to support New Zealand apprenticeships and other changes to improve the industry training system. The government will use a new benchmarking tool in the coming year to determine the relativities between tuition funding of different disciplines, which need to be further changed and may need to be further changed in the future. We recognise that some higher cost subjects may still be relatively underfunded compared to low cost areas like management, commerce and the arts. So the tertiary education sector is a key driver of New Zealand's innovation, productivity and growth, and we are continuing to make significant investments in tertiary education while working to improve the overall performance of the sector. One of the government's tertiary education priorities is lifting achievements for Maori and Pacifica students, and it's really gratifying to me, with my office in Manurewa, the vibrant and diverse community of Manurewa, to just 2 weeks ago hear that the Tertiary Education Commission had announced their support for Auckland University of Technology's expansion of their Manukau campus with a total investment of around $90 million. Now, this expansion will see the number of full-time equivalent students at AUT Manukau increase from 940 to 4,100 by 2020, a significant increase. And this is really important because South Auckland is home to one of New Zealand's fastest growing and most youthful populations. 40%, Mr Chairman, of its residents are under 25. And the quadrupling of full-time places at Manukau is a very significant milestone in the work this government has undertaken to make tertiary education more accessible to the aspirational folk who live in that vibrant and diverse community of Manurewa and Manukau. There's a huge demand for tertiary education in the region, a region dear to my heart, as I say, as has my office based there. In 2011, there were 13,000 students from Manukau enrolled in universities across New Zealand. That number is expected to reach 18,000 by 2021. That's why it's important, as the Minister Stephen Joyce, the Honourable Minister, observed for tertiary education, observed this afternoon in the House. That's why it's important that we make the investment in the expansion in the region now. The current AUT campus in Manukau has been successful in improving participation for our priority students, and we believe it will continue to do so. Nearly 2/3 of current students are from decile 1 to 3 schools.
The question is that vote tertiary education stand part of the schedules. Those of that opinion will say aye. Contrary, no. The ayes have it. The question now is that vote ACC stand part of the schedules. Those of that opinion will say aye. Contrary, no. The ayes have it. The question now is that vote justice stand part of the schedules. Those of that opinion will say aye. Contrary, no. The ayes have it. The question now is that vote health stand part of the schedules.
Mr. Chairman.
Oh, the Honourable Annette King.
Surprise, surprise, Mr. Chairman. But here we are.